fake HOA tried taking my kid. Too bad her dad trains special forces to destroy target quietly. The day a clipboard Karen threatened to remove my daughter from our home was the day I stopped being a neighbor and became her ghost. My name is Jason Rhodes. I don't talk much. Not because I have nothing to say, just because most people don't deserve the inside of my head. I did 12 years with a black ops group so far off books they didn't even issue pages. What I did for them isn't for telling, but let's just say I didn't train to lose ground. After my wife died, I left that world behind. Not because I was broken, but because my daughter needed something I'd never learned to build: peace. Her name is Emily. 7 years old. Nonverbal. Autistic. The kind of kid who notices if your watch ticks out of rhythm or if your shoelace crosses left instead of right. And despite the world thinking she lives in silence, let me tell you, her presence fills every corner of a room if you know how to listen. We lived quiet in a cul-de-sac outside Austin. Fenced property. No front-facing cameras. One truck. One dog. One purpose. That peace lasted 841 days. Then came day 842. I got back from a morning run for Emily's sensory mats and some groceries. I parked the truck, Shadow wagged his tail once and I froze. There was a folded sheet of paper taped to my door. Fluorescent pink. HOA template stock. Notice of Custodial Concern E. Brookstone Trails Homeowners Association. I opened it right there on the porch. No greeting. No context. Just language so formal it bled passive aggression. It has come to our attention that conditions within the residence located at lot number 17 may pose developmental and environmental concerns for the minor resident. If no corrective action is taken, we may escalate the matter to relevant authorities, including Child Protective Services. No names signed. Just a stamp that said BTHOA Compliance Division. Let me be clear, I've never signed up for an HOA. This neighborhood hadn't had one for years. I specifically bought here because of that. But that name, Brookstone Trails, was freshly registered a year ago. I remembered seeing something about a community beautification effort on a flyer once, but no one ever showed up. No meetings. No votes. But now they wanted my kid. I left Emily inside with Shadow and drove straight to the address listed at the bottom of the letter, #9 Birchleaf Circle. An old model home, converted to an administrative hub. I walked in. No reception desk. Just folding chairs, a conference table, and the smell of printer toner and cinnamon gum. Behind the table sat a woman in her late 50s with stiff hair, red lipstick, and a face that looked like it hadn't heard no in decades. Trina Vailmont. HOA president. Self-declared. She looked up and smiled like I was interrupting her tea party. "Oh," she said. "You must be Emily's father. Jason Rhodes. You left this on my door." Her smile thinned. "Well, a notice, yes. We've received multiple complaints." "From who?" "I'm not at liberty to say. But it's been observed that your daughter roams the yard unaccompanied. And there are reports of screaming." I stared at her. "She's autistic," I said. "Nonverbal. That's how she expresses overload." "Well," Trina leaned back, "we understand but others don't. It's disruptive. You've also got a rather intimidating gait and the way your fence is constructed. Frankly, it feels like a compound. This community is meant to be welcoming." I stepped forward slightly. Not enough to threaten. Just enough to remind her I see everything. "And what part of a therapy dog, a 6-foot fence, and a quiet yard makes you think you have authority over me?" She didn't blink. Just tapped her nails on the folder in front of her. "If you won't work with us, we may have no choice but to report the environment to CPS. Just as a precaution, of course." I picked up the folder. Put it back down. Slowly. "Do it," I said. "Then pray they don't ask for your paperwork." That night they came. 2 patrol cruisers. Lights off. Quiet knock on the door. Not a raid. Just a welfare check. Emily was halfway through her bath. She squealed when the dog barked. I wrapped her in a towel and held her as I answered. "Evening, sir," one officer said. "Just here following up on a community concern. Mind if we step in?" I looked past him. Saw the one in the back quietly taking notes on her clipboard. "I do mind," I said. "Without a warrant or immediate threat, you're not stepping anywhere." Shadow growled low. Emily clung to my shoulder, stimmying hard, tiny hands slapping my back in a rhythm only she understood. The lead officer looked nervous. "You military?" I didn't answer. After 2 minutes of awkward silence they left. One of them made a note that I had non-cooperative behavior. The other just nodded once in understanding. I closed the door and sat on the floor with Emily. She eventually fell asleep, breathing against my chest. I didn't move for 2 hours. Then I got up and climbed into the attic. The duffel was exactly where I left it. Still, untouched since the funeral. Inside, tactical maps from my private training grounds. Burner phone numbers. A flash drive with scanned documents from every property title on the street. 3 contacts I hadn't called in 5 years. I pulled out a fresh folder. Label maker still worked. I printed one word. Neutralize. I didn't rage. I didn't post online. I didn't warn. I just started watching. Every light. Every meeting. Every trash pickup. Brookstone Trails thought they knew quiet. They were about to meet what silence really sounds like. The first thing I did was erase myself. No more utility accounts in my name. No direct mail. My title records were buried behind 3 trust layers before the sun rose again. Property footprint, scrubbed. My digital presence, narrowed to a dead-end P.O. box in Arkansas. Then I turned my attention to them. Brookstone Trails, they called it. Sounded like a retirement village wrapped in pretentious mulch and passive aggression. I pulled the filings from the county database. Half of them were PDFs with cut-and-paste headers. Poor kerning. One even used Comic Sans in the footer. That's how I knew it was going to be easy. They weren't professionals. They were sloppy. And they were greedy. The first call I made was to Trent Marks, a former Intel tech from my unit who now ran a cybersecurity firm out of a cabin in Idaho. Last time we worked together, we were deep in a sandstorm pulling metadata from a flash drive no one was supposed to have. He picked up on the first ring. Is this about your girl? Yeah. Then I'm in. Send me everything. I uploaded the HOA's filings, property transfer claims, and complaint logs. 24 hours later, Trent had already flagged 5 forged signatures, 3 ghost LLCs, and a PDF notarization dated 2 months before the HOA even legally reformed. This isn't a neighborhood board, man, he said. This is a shell. A funnel for flipping homes under pressure. They're creating violations, applying fines, and forcing sales. And the money? Laundered through a brokerage in Austin. Tied to an entity called Vale Corp Development. Wanna guess who's listed as VP? Trina Valemont. Bingo. While Trent combed the digital trail, I ran the physical recon. I started with a drone, quiet, unregistered, range-locked under a spoofed MAC address. At first, it was just property paths and foot traffic. Then I picked up late-night deliveries at Lot 12, landscaping equipment arriving at 2 a.m., followed by utility trucks with no county markings. Then came the illegal contractors. One of them sprayed a green line across someone's fence. 2 days later, the owner received a violation letter for encroaching perimeter. I filmed the whole thing. But the worst was what I caught at Lot 24. A man in khakis and a navy windbreaker hopped the back fence, dumped a bag of empty beer cans behind the AC unit, and snapped photos with his phone. I froze the frame. Zoom. He was one of Trina's board members. They weren't just corrupt. They were fabricating entire narratives to build legal grounds for seizure. And I wasn't the only one. I met Sarah Connolly the next day at an abandoned car wash off Highway 183. She was already waiting, arms folded, trench coat over a hoodie. Former real estate agent. Blacklisted after exposing a similar HOA scheme that got swept under the rug. I heard about the CPS stunt, she said, no intro. They're pulling the same script they used in Clearwater Estates. She showed me files. Same typeface. Same language. Same fake, concerned citizen, named in complaints. Madeline Hart had reported 5 families across 3 counties. There is no Madeline Hart. Sarah leaned in. You do know she's selling the homes, right? Not even through MLS. These are internal flips. Fast cash. No inspection clauses. Straight to shell buyers. And the HOA? A cover. With legal immunity. They threaten families with violations, lean on them until they break, then offer a buyout. I looked at the map pinned on her iPad, properties marked with red X's. Where's my house on that chart? I asked. She blinked. Then slowly slid her finger over the screen, until it stopped. Dead center of a planned green space redevelopment proposal. They wanted my land, not my home. Emily was just leverage. I went quiet for 3 days. During that time, I set up a shell corporation, Midwest Holding 7A, registered through 3 states and routed through an old Contacts LLC in Belize. I used it to acquire 3 tax liens on homes under the HOA's purview. No one noticed. They were too busy writing fines. Then I filed a sealed complaint with the county registrar's office. I used Sarah's evidence, Trent's discovery logs, and my drone footage. But I didn't file it under my name. I filed it under a citizen affidavit of municipal fraud, a clause tucked inside a dusty page of Texas County Code, last used in 1998. Then I waited. It didn't take long. Officer Deshaun Lewis knocked on my door 2 nights later. Alone. No cruiser. Just him and a brown envelope. Off the record, he said. I let him in. He laid the folder on the table. I reviewed the footage from your front porch, he said. The night we showed up. Your daughter wasn't in distress. She was protecting herself. That dog never made a move beyond a warning. You followed the law to the letter. And I pulled the 911 call. It didn't come through dispatch. It was a direct line to a private number logged under BT oversight. That number's assigned to Trina's private property enforcement team. He leaned forward. You were set up. I met his eyes. Then it's war. The next morning I connected the last piece. Trent traced the escrow funding for Vale Corp Development, Trina's shell, to a contract with a private security firm based out of Houston. One of the directors? Marcus Hale. A man I'd personally trained in threat assessment and off-grid sabotage tactics. Now he was running intimidation ops under the radar for a fake HOA. The irony hit me like ice. The same tactics I once taught to counter warlords were now being used on innocent families in suburbia. Sarah called as I stood staring at the feed from my drone. They'll escalate, she warned. It's what they do. Fines become liens. Checkpoints turn to visits. Families start packing. I didn't flinch. So will I said. Then I zoomed the camera in on Trina's driveway. A package had just been delivered. Unmarked. Inside, a notarized lien acquisition notice. And a GPS tracker. The first bills went out on a Monday. Official-looking envelopes. Thick stock paper. Embossed seal in the top left corner. Shadow Property Infrastructure Trust, a division of Barrett Holdings, LLC. They were formatted exactly like HOA dues letters, but the language was colder. Clinical. Due to unlawful infrastructure encroachment and unauthorized utility routing through trust-controlled access points, your property is now subject to usage assessments under County Ordinances 12.18b and 44.03f. Monthly charges, $487.91. Failure to respond, legal risk of lien stacking. The panic started within 24 hours. Residents posted frantic messages in group chats and on private social media boards. Wait, who the hell is Shadow Trust? Why is this invoice notarized? Is this legal? Guys, I just called the county. This is real. By Tuesday, the HOA message board crashed under the weight of comments. By Wednesday, Trina called an emergency meeting. It was standing room only inside the old leasing office, now renamed the community hall. Jason didn't attend. He didn't have to. He owned the room without stepping inside. Someone had printed the Shadow Trust bills and posted them on the back wall like mugshots. Homeowners shouted over one another, waving papers, demanding answers. I paid my HOA dues on time. Why do I owe anything else? You said the infrastructure was privately maintained. I just closed 2 months ago. Are you saying my title is invalid? And then, who the hell is Barrett Holdings? Trina stood at the front, red-faced, shoulders pulled back in forced authority. It's harassment. A shell company trying to intimidate you. We're handling it, legally. But even her voice wavered now. Because at 6 p.m. sharp, Trent Marks released the dossier. It was a clean, brutal data drop. Heavy checkmark PDFs of forged violation notices. Heavy checkmark audio clips from phone calls with contractors discussing bonus payments for evidence placement. Heavy checkmark a spreadsheet of 17 falsified homeowner signatures on HOA restructuring forms. Heavy checkmark screenshots of bank wires to Cayman Islands accounts under the name Trina V Holdings LLC. Heavy checkmark video proof of a board member planting garbage on a lawn, then calling in a citation. Every file was time-stamped. Every image watermarked. Every piece of it real. By 7 p.m., 2 local news outlets were broadcasting clips with the headline, HOA fraud? Brookstone trails and scandal over shell corporations and child welfare retaliation. Jason watched it all from his living room, lights off, laptop open, Shadow asleep at his feet, Emily humming to herself nearby. Then came a knock. It wasn't a threat. It was Mr. Howland, a retired vet from Lot 11. He didn't say much. Just held out the letter he got from Shadow Trust. I thought it was junk. Then I saw the evidence. Jason invited him in. Howland sat slowly, wiping at his face. They tried to evict me over my ramp, he said. Said it was a visual nuisance. You believe that? 40 years in a chair and I'm the eyesore. Jason nodded once. They don't see people. They see leverage. The next day, Jason filed his proxy claim in county records. By owning liens on 14 properties, each bundled through his trust, he could assert temporary management control of the HOA's financial trust account until the dispute cleared. The county clerk accepted the filing. Now, legally, the same organization that harassed him was operating under his control. He didn't change a thing. He just froze everything. No payments could be made. No fines could be processed. The HOA credit card? Suspended. The development deals Trina had pending? Denied for internal conflict of ownership. She was locked in a box of her own making. And he wasn't done. The county arbitration hearing drew a full crowd. Jason wore a plain gray shirt, black jacket, clean boots. No military medals. No display. Trina arrived flanked by 2 attorneys. She was already unraveling, eyes darting, lips pulled tight. Jason was called to testify first. He declined. Instead, he submitted a folder. Inside, the full dossier. Drone footage of planted violations. County title records showing the HOA's illegal reactivation. The original property filings from 2002 proving Brookstone Trails HOA had legally dissolved and never reformed by vote. The judge flipped through the folder for 5 minutes in total silence. Then he turned to Trina. You have a response to these accusations? She stood. Her voice shook. This is a personal vendetta, she spat. He's a trained killer. He shouldn't even be around a child. Jason slowly rose. He didn't shout. He didn't even speak for the first 5 seconds. Then he said, You went after my kid. You should have known. I don't lose targets. The judge's gavel echoed across the chamber. Jason won a temporary injunction against Trina and her board. All assets under the HOA were immediately frozen. A court-appointed receiver was brought in to audit every transaction and investigate criminal activity. Trina's lawyers left first. She stayed, slumped in her chair, blinking rapidly, lips parted in disbelief. Jason walked past her without a word. Outside, cameras flashed. A reporter yelled, Mr. Rhodes, will you be pressing charges? Jason kept walking. He didn't smile. He never does. Jason standing at the top of the courthouse steps. The weight of silence around him is louder than any cheer. The indictment came fast. 11 charges filed in federal court against Trina Vailmont. Wire fraud. Identity theft. Forgery. Land title manipulation. Even obstruction of justice. After investigators discovered she had tried to erase phone logs and shred HOA ballots in her home office. The agents didn't knock politely when they showed up. They pulled her out of a brunch meeting in a powder blue blazer and heels, right in front of her developers and board. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stopped pretending. 2 of her board members flipped within days. One had been paid off to plant nuisance items behind specific homes. The other had impersonated homeowners during a vote to reinstate the HOA, a vote that legally never occurred. Every violation issued under Brookstone Trails was declared null and void. Every lien, expunged. Every family, cleared. And the CPS file? Closed. They sent Jason a letter. The wording was stiff, governmental. But the final line stuck out. We apologize for any distress caused to you and your daughter, Emily Rhodes. Your record reflects no concerns past, present, or future. It was signed, stamped, and framed above Emily's desk before the week ended. With the HOA legally dissolved and Trina awaiting trial, the neighborhood faced a choice. Rebuild the old way, or try something new. Jason never pushed. He just showed up at a residents' meeting with coffee and said, No more fines. No more presidents. Just neighbors with 1 vote each. They agreed. Unanimously. The Brookstone Cooperative was born. No dues. No secret meetings. Every home protected under a shared charter. 1 family, 1 voice. Jason declined the nomination to lead. Not my kind of mission, he said. Instead, he helped draft the charter, on 1 condition. That they give Lot 17, the plot Trina had once tried to seize and convert into a phony green space, a new purpose. They called it Emily's Grove. A community sensory garden, filled with sound stones, wind chimes, safe swings, textured paths, lavender hedges and shaded benches. In the center, surrounded by sunflowers and soft bark mulch, stood a treehouse. Jason built it himself. Platform foundation. Ramps instead of ladders. Quiet wind vents to soothe Emily during storms. A small shelf inside for her toys and coloring books. Shadow took to sleeping beneath it, tail swaying every time Emily tapped on the railing. Kids came by after school to play. Neighbors stopped arguing about fences and started talking over lemonade. Jason didn't speak much, but people listened anyway. Sarah Connolly reopened her real estate firm. With Jason's help, she started offering HOA fraud audits as a pro bono service to vulnerable homeowners. She never missed a case. Officer Deshaun Lewis received the county medal for civic integrity. The mayor gave a speech. Jason didn't attend. But he left a note in Lewis's mailbox. For every time you could have looked away, but didn't. Trent Marks got a quiet job offer from the Texas Department of Cybersecurity, signed directly by the governor's office. He called Jason the next day. "You're not just a wrecking ball, man. You're a blueprint." Jason laughed once. "That's new." Seasons passed. The noise faded. No more legal letters. No more unexpected visitors. No more fake meetings in fake offices with real consequences. Just families. Just yards. Just people trying to live without looking over their shoulders. The kind of life Jason had come here to build for Emily in the first place. And one evening, as the cicadas began to hum and the air turned gold with sunset, Jason sat beneath the treehouse with a cup of coffee and a worn ball cap over his eyes. Emily tapped away gently on a colorful xylophone someone had donated to the garden. She wasn't trying to play a song. She just liked the rhythm, the vibration, the color. Across the path, a neighbor waved as she walked her dog. No clipboard. No complaints. Just a smile. Jason nodded back, slow and steady. It wasn't perfection. But it was peace. I didn't destroy the HOA because they broke a rule. I dismantled them because they broke what mattered most: trust. And trust is the one thing I never let anyone take. Direct hit: what would you do if a fake HOA tried threatening your family? Let us know in the comments. Your stories matter more than you think. Backhand index pointing down. If you believe in quiet strength, justice without chaos, and fighting for what truly matters, shield, hit that subscribe button and join a community that never backs down. Thumbs up like the video if you felt the ending was earned. Bell, turn on notifications so you never miss a real-world takedown that proves silence isn't weakness, it's precision.